So, what I'd like to address, I understand that Joel McKay will be speaking on the process of vetting school staff. So, I have some questions to Mr. McKay and of the board in reference to this topic. I assume the district already has a vetting process. Was Mr. McKay invited by the board? Did Mr. McKay solicit the board to speak here? I'm very familiar with the vetting process, having been a teacher in various school districts. I want to know how the school district has been vetting personnel up to now. Is the board considering using vetting process used by the government connected to the Department of Defense, or is this an informal and advisory from DCSA? What data is collected when vetting by DCSA, and who has access to it? Are the school board members included, including superintendent and all of county school board personnel vetted at present? Will materials that are gathered after Mr. McKay's visit be public? Transparency is appropriate whenever any outside organization, federal, corporate, or nonprofit presents to a public body. DCSA is a federal security and defense agency of the United States Department of Defense. That reports to the Secretary of Defense for Intelligence. I'm sure Mr. McKay will address why the Department of Defense would have an interest in addressing a county school board. Thank you.
I was just curious about the vetting. I think that all teachers should be vetted before, during, and along the way because things change in life and so does the status of their lifestyle. So I think it should all be vetted throughout. It shouldn't just be a beginning. It should be in the middle, throughout, and it should be a part of maintaining employment. Thank you.
We'll move on to our first presenter, Joel McKay, presentation regarding Defense Counterintelligence Security Agency process for vetting school staff. Mr. McKay?
Yes, sir. I want to thank the Honorable Chairman and the Honorable Board for allowing me the opportunity to talk. I'm up here on my own. I'm not representing any organization. My background is I retired from the police department back in 2010 with 22 years on the force. And I currently work the last 16 years doing federal backgrounds, last 5 years as a special agent. Today I want to briefly discuss the importance of periodic security investigations and 2 other accountability measures for public school teachers and other staff working for school districts I think are important. Teachers and others who work around our children hold one of the most trusted positions in our community. Every day, parents place their children in the care with the expectation that they are safe, supported, guided by responsible professionals. Because of that level of trust, it's critical that school systems maintain not only high hiring standards, but also ongoing accountability. An area of concern that deserves attention is the practice sometimes known as resignation in lieu of termination. Across California and other parts of the country, there have been instances in which school employees under investigation were permitted to resign rather than face a formal dismissal. In some cases, this may occur due to lengthy legal proceedings, collective bargaining requirements, settlement agreements, or insufficient evidence to support termination, or just plain negligence on the part of that school district. While due process is important and every allegation must be handled fairly, the public also deserves transparency and accountability. Parents should have confidence that serious misconduct concerns are fully addressed and, when necessary, properly reported to the appropriate credentialing law enforcement agency. One way we can ensure transparency and accountability is with periodic security investigations, which are not about distrust. They are about maintaining confidence. People's circumstances can change due to financial stress, legal issues, or personal challenges, all of which can impact judgment or behavior. Regular reviews help ensure that those entrusted with our children continue to meet the standards required for such an important role. In fact, the federal government already uses a model of ongoing accountability through continuous vetting programs managed by agencies like the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. Federal employees and contractors with security clearances are routinely monitored for issues that could affect their eligibility. Importantly, only a very small percentage of individuals, generally estimated as well under 1% annually, actually lose their security clearances. This demonstrates that continuous vetting is not designed to remove people unnecessarily, but to maintain trust, identify concerns early, and ensure standards are upheld responsibly and fairly. Unfortunately, Kern County has also seen a number of publicly reported educator arrests and misconduct investigations over the past several years. While there is no official county-wide database tracking these incidents, local media investigations have reported multiple arrests of educators or cases of criminal misconduct involving teachers, coaches, aides, and other school employees. These cases have included allegations ranging from inappropriate relationships with students to exploited related offenses. The overwhelming majority of teachers are dedicated professionals who serve students honorably every single day. However, it only takes a few serious incidents to damage public trust and put students at risk. That is why proactive accountability measures matter. The goal is not to unfairly target educators, but to identify concerns early, protect students, preserve confidence in our schools. Another area that deserves discussion is the importance of drug testing for educators and other school district employees. Teachers are responsible not only for educating students, but also supervising classrooms, responding to emergencies, and making important decisions that affect students' well-being. Impairment caused by illegal drug use or substance abuse can impact judgment, reliability, and professional conduct. Many professions involving public trust and safety, including law enforcement, commercial transportation, healthcare, and certain federal positions, already require some form of drug testing. Schools should consider reasonable accountability standards to help ensure students learn in a safe and stable environment. Importantly, drug testing policy should be implemented fairly, respectfully, and in accordance with the law. The purpose should not be punishment or stigma, but prevention, early intervention, and maintaining confidence in the education system. In some cases, these policies may even help employees receive assistance before a more serious issue develops. Another important issue, I believe, is maintaining CPR and first aid certification for teachers. Schools are responsible for care of children for many hours each day, and emergencies can happen at any time. A student may suffer medical emergencies such as cardiac arrest, choking, asthma attack, and severe allergic reactions or seizure or serious injury on the playground or in the classroom. In those critical first moments, the actions of nearby adults can mean the difference between life and death. CPR and first aid training give teachers the knowledge and confidence to respond quickly and effectively until emergency medical personnel arrive. Maintaining certification is just as important as obtaining it initially because medical guidelines and emergency responses procedures are updated over time. Regular recertification ensures that teachers maintain familiar with current life-saving techniques and best practices. Teachers are often the first adults to respond during emergencies at school events, athletic events, field trips, playgrounds, and classrooms. Having trained personnel across the campus strengthens school safety and reassures parents that schools are prepared to respond responsibly during emergencies. These accountability measures may include updated background checks, verification of professional conduct, reviews of any new legal or ethical concerns, reasonable suspicion, or pre-employment drug testing policies, and maintaining current CPR and first aid certifications. When done properly, they protect the students, support school administrators, and even safeguard teachers by ensuring that concerns are addressed early and fairly. Importantly, these processes must remain balanced and respectful. They should protect privacy, follow due process, avoid creating an atmosphere of fear. The goal is not punishment, it's prevention, transparency, professionalism, preparedness, and trust. In today's world, where schools face increasing safety concerns, proactive measures, periodic security investigations, and appropriate accountability standards are tools that can help create a safe, stable, and accountable learning environment for students, teachers, and families alike. All school districts are facing an increased budget restraints, and these recommendations will definitely cost money and place tighter restraints on those district school budgets. The little bit of money spent on these recommendations to identify potential issues can save a school district hundreds of thousands to millions in potential lawsuits when an incident occurs. At the end of the day, this is about one thing: protecting our students while preserving the integrity of teaching profession. When we uphold high standards and maintain them consistently, we strengthen trust between schools, family, and the communities they serve.
Have you seen an uptick have you seen any sort of a significant uptick in the sorts of incidences you reported at the beginning?
In my profession, in my personal, in the federal government, we're seeing an uptick in child molestation cases, child porn, the apps, seeing that. And then In Roseman, we had an incident, I think last year. North Edwards had an incident. You guys just had an incident. Tehachapi just had an incident. So when schools teachers are hired, they go through the fingerprint check. All a fingerprint check tells you that they've been convicted. It doesn't help you in determining who they are. And then when you hire somebody, if you're not out there talking to their coworkers, former principals, you're not going to get the true story. And I know there's a shortage of teachers, and my fear is people are just going to get pushed through to get these positions filled.
That was the crux of my question, because I know that there has been a teacher shortage, and I was wondering if some of the laxness in getting people to getting bodies in those places, if there's been any indication that there's been more of these instances than previously reported.
I don't know if there's been more. I can tell you in the law enforcement, my years, I was heavily involved in our union, and we saw an uptick where a bad cop was hired from one city. They would just let him go. They say, hey, just go. We're not going to fight it. We're not going to badmouth you. You're going to go. He ended up in another. The city of Southgate, for instance, had that big scandal years ago, probably about 10 years ago, where they were hiring a bunch of corrupt cops from other cities. California just put in a system with posts where cops can lose their certification, so they can't be hired in other cities. And that's what I'm starting to see the uptick here. Not so much, I guess, for the shortages, but I don't think thorough backgrounds by the school districts are just wanting to fill positions and hire people just to get those positions filled. And that's my fear. Is I'm starting to see it's starting to make the news here of these child predators getting into our school systems.
So when they have a fingerprint check and something comes up, the school districts cannot dig further about what the charge was.
Now, I'll give you an example. I have the perfect example. When I first got into law enforcement, I worked custody. And I had these guys in there bragging, oh, I've been to Corcoran, I've been to this prison, I've been to this prison. And I had another guy working. He goes, you know what? I've done all the stuff you have, but I just wasn't stupid enough to get caught. I'm just as bad as you are, but I haven't been caught. And that's how you do fingerprints. If you haven't been caught, or there's been accusations or anything, it's all, like I said, all fingerprints are going to tell you if you've been convicted. It doesn't go, we should be checking, social media like we're doing now, and, like with the drug testing. Everything I'm preaching, I go through. I was drug tested twice last year. My boss calls me up at 7 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing for the rest of the day? And I said, no, you're going to go get drug tested. So
So we don't do an extensive background check on teachers? Like in law enforcement, they do an extensive background check. Nothing's done for teachers. There's no background check on teachers.
Oh,
there is when they first start.
That's it.
But
That's it.
life changes. You
Correct.
get into financial issues. You can be
Right,
blackmailed.
correct.
Yeah. But once you're in, you're in. There's no periodic.
No periodic, like,
Yeah.
hey, we need to check this person. It's their
Right.
tenure. Let's kind of do a little check on them.
Right. So that's my concern is, you have a good person, but like life instances happen in your life where things change. You get into a financial situation, you start smoking a little bit of marijuana, get into drugs, and that affects you, and you start doing things you normally wouldn't do. And if we're not constantly reevaluating every 3 to 5 years or even sooner, we're not going to catch them. And these people, it's just going to get worse.
And I want to let the public know and the board that Mr. McKay lives in Rosamond, and he reached out to me. He's in my area and just called me with a concern about the vetting process that we, as a state, really, it's not just Kern County, it's just, as far as I understand, the vetting process is a one and done at the beginning. So I appreciate you coming all the way over here to tell us about this. And just so everyone knows, I don't really know Joel on a personal level. He just knows my number from it being public. And so that's how we connected. And I reached out to our president, and he approved to have him on the agenda. This is just a presentation. And I know we're adding a little discussion with it, but
I just want to emphasize that continuous vetting is not a punishment. There's so many people we catch early on that are starting to go down that, we can start to see them go down that path, and we can correct that path. If we can catch things early, we can save people. It's like you said, 1% people lose their security clearance in the federal government. So it's not out there trying to get people or disparage people. It's just, like I said, make sure our children are safe.
That's what we want to do. Thank you.
thank you
Mr.
for what you
McKay.
do. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to say thank you, Mr. President, for putting the presentations on the agenda tonight. I think it brings two things to mind that are quite interesting. Talking about vetting of the school staff and CISC to kind of be back to back and work together in kind of prevention and fixing some things. And this comes to light because I've been listening to some of the Camp Mystic trials, and I don't know if you guys remember, but that horrible Camp Mystic in Texas in the summer. And there's just a lot of negligence, and when you look at a school and you look at what our job is and to protect students, whether it be employees, facilities, I think it's important to remember that we've got to practice what we preach. We've got to look at policy, and we've got to practice it. That's probably been the biggest thing that I've been listening to in the Mystic. A lot of, like I said, liability claims, criminal charges. Lots of things have been kind of coming to my foresight and thinking about a school and a school structure. And so it's interesting that it fell tonight on the action item because I know that we've gone over a couple of things in the past. We've talked about the Narcan. I would like to look at some of those updates. I think that Mr. McKay brings to light some other things, CPR, first aid. I know that some of those things are state regulated, but it would be nice to know maybe what some of those first aid policies are in our classrooms. Like I said, safety can't just be a plan, it has to be a practice. And I know that we do a lot for the Great Shakeout, and I'm sure there's a lot of, lockdown procedures that are practicing and happening, but I would like to just kind of ask if there's some sort of a refresher that we can look at and possibly review. What are the safety measures that we're covering in our schools?
Oh, I do want to talk about the vetting too. I don't know if that would have to be a legislation thing to be changed on some of that stuff, sir. But I am in agreement. I did that background checks in my other career also. So that just is kind of concerning also to me that, that maybe needs to be an ongoing thing. I'm also with Julie on the first aid and the Narcan. I think teachers need to have that at all times. But yeah, background checks could be foregoing. I do know that a lot of times law enforcement do move people around. They do that instead of, doing other things. So I worry about that. A lot of things are going on with our children that don't need to be going on with our children. So thank you for coming and doing that. I appreciate it. I also had the privilege to go up to BC to Turning Point and do the table up there. That was a lot of fun. They really do like to engage and have conversation, and nobody's wrong. So that was really a lot of fun. And tomorrow will be their last table because the school year is, winding down. So, yeah, they are. School's out. Woohoo! School's out. School is out. So anyway, tomorrow will be their last table. Matthew, that was here, will be graduating, and Nayali, that was here, will be graduating. So they will have a new president starting next year. So we had a lot of fun going up there.
You brought up Turning Point, saying you were out there for Turning Point. We're starting to see a little bit more Turning Point activity amongst high schools here in Kern County. We're seeing a bit of it at the Liberty Center. We see the groups are growing, and I'm really kind of happy to see that because I'm all about discourse. I'm all about people having discussions. I'm all about people getting away from the idea that everything is a zero-sum game where somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. And I think that those sorts of organizations promote that discussion. And I also like to express appreciation for the board. There are going to be some opportunities for a lot of other people who might now take a look at possibly getting involved with running for school boards. I know that there's an organization here in town. What is Jeanette Beeson's organization? The Revere Group. I think it's called the Revere Group. And they have regular meetings where people can go and find out about what they have to do in order to put themselves in as a candidate for a specific school board position. There are some opportunities. I would like to see a lot more people running for offices like this, like these school boards now. And there's a decent amount of remuneration for that now. For those positions. So I would encourage a lot of the folks that are out here who show up at these meetings on a regular basis, get involved at that level. I mean, you're involved here now, and I think that's great, but it would be nice to go ahead and see a lot of people wanting to run for these offices. I think it would really go on ahead and create the kind of difference that folks like us and folks like you are looking to bring about.
Is Lori asked in regards to the vetting process, what we currently have in place for school districts, just so that everyone knows. So for the vetting process, before an employee can be hired, doesn't matter if they're certificated or classified, they have to clear fingerprints, as was mentioned. But just know anytime something occurs after that, if an employee is arrested, their fingerprints, they take fingerprints, we are notified immediately. Us and the school district is notified of that employee being arrested. And they are told what they're arrested for. So if it's a misdemeanor, we inquire more information because under state law, you can have a misdemeanor and still hold your job. Felony, you cannot. And so once we know what's going on, but there is that process that's in place, and it's been in place for quite a while. What has been a concern is, and what was spoken about tonight, and we do agree, people will leave. They may resign from a position and nobody knows, and they go to another district, and that district has no idea why they may have left their current district, and there might be a story behind it. There is a new law in California that now requires that any employee who moves districts, that district must go back to, I think, the district and the district before. There's like a year span, and we're getting the questions now. They'll ask, why did they leave? Was there any mischievous acts? Was there anything that's been reported? Has there been anything that should have been reported that was not reported? You name it, they ask a litany of things. It's not perfect, as was mentioned earlier, but it is a new law in California, and it was specific to certificated only, but I believe it's expanded now to all employees. And so our office, we've been getting inquiries from other school districts that will say, we have this person who's applying for a job, you need to answer these questions, and we're required to by law. And if we don't, then our credentials are on the line. So it's because of that AB 218 that came out with misconduct, and now they used to be able to go 40 years back, now you can go back even farther than that. And because of that, and because of everything that is going on in not only in schools, but in community as a whole, the state did pass a law that now requires us to search back instead of just saying, oh, you're coming to us, okay, we'll hire you. Because before you couldn't really say anything once the person leaves, and now we're obligated.
That's awesome.
So it doesn't answer all the questions that was raised tonight, but just so that you know that there are things in place, and we are hoping to continue to see things. But
Dr. Menderow, in relation to that, I had two people that, with the different accounts of the different incidents. I think there's 3 incidents lately. And one of the, well, 2 of them, they said that, it happened and that superintendent of schools was involved in taking care of all of it because they still think, people in the public still think that we oversee all the school districts. So I have tried my best to educate some people that no, those are not in our school district, and we did not have anything to do with it. Only one was.
correct, yeah. All school districts, any employees that are hired by a school district, those school district employees only know we're not privy to any of that information unless they apply for a job here. then we can ask that district, and then that district has to now divulge if there's any inappropriate actions.
Brings up one question though. If we are providing a service in a particular school, it's covered by our employees only, right?
What do you mean? So like Kirk County Superintendent of Schools is a good example. We have employees that will go out and work in school districts or are assigned to school districts
But-
to work.
Okay.
There are employees.
There are employee providing that service.
Providing that
We don't go
service.
into a school, put together a program, but that school is providing the employee for the program. It's only ours.
There are times where we are providing a program. A good example is special education. We do have partnerships with school districts. Well, they'll offer the classroom and the
aid.
students and all of that, and then we provide the teacher.
Okay.
So it's a partnership. It's their students, but we're assigning a teacher to that classroom. But there are employee, but they follow those rules. But if anything happens, we're privy to that, and then we work with the district.
Okay. Good question, Lori. Lori.
Yes, and about the drug testing is an interesting thing to bring up as well, like random testing, like, people who are welders out there, they have to get randomly tested, and makes sense for us, teachers in general having influence over children. Is
Yeah.
that something we can, what do we do with that? Can
So
we?
right now under state law,
Okay.
and it's all state law, district cannot do anything beyond, as you know. But under state law right now, bus drivers must pass a drug test, and then they are every so many years during a rotation are up for a drug testing screening to keep their license whole because they're transporting students to and from. Any other employee in a school district is not drug tested unless there is symptoms or reasonable cause, and then you have to work with a lot of entities in order to get that drug test to actually happen. You can't just walk up to a teacher and say you need to go get drug tested because I suspect you aren't yourself today. So there has to be a lot of cause to get to that point. State law is real specific. Every district will have within their, I don't want to say bargaining agreements, but within their HR policies is how and what they do and when they do certain things. The only testing that teachers are required to do before being hired is a TB test. And then once that's passed, they may be in a classroom. And then every 4 years after that, they have to get that TB test cleared. But as far as drug testing or alcohol testing, the state does not, we cannot force somebody to be tested. There are situations where an employee may come to work, not themselves. We contact law enforcement and they can step in and do that. We as a school district, or administration cannot. At this point in time, the state has not, and it's been brought up before, and the state has not changed anything. in regards to
Dr.
that.
Benvero? Yeah, if I may, we talked about liability earlier through CISC, all right? Now, in the event of, let's say that a classified or a certificated employee is injured on the job, all right, and there's suspect that part of that might have been because of an impaired state. At that point, can CISC step in and request a drug test to determine the possible culpability of that person?
Yeah, once if a situation should have occurred, we handle that situation. It gets then turned over to CISC in most cases, depending on what the situation is. And then CISC will then come in, but that's not an immediate thing. It's not the day of where CISC comes in and starts doing things. That's oftentimes handled by law enforcement at that point in time. They will go through a determination of liability, what was that cause, if it was an accident, for example. And we found that the employee was drinking before they started that route or driving the transportation truck or the mail run. And then they're the ones held liable, the employee, at that point in time. Covered with insurance, but for other damages that may occur, but the employee is still liable, and then there's other consequences and stuff that can occur with that employee.
And that would be the same for a teacher or a certificate?
Yeah, anyone. Yeah,
Okay.
I was just using that as an example. But yeah,
All right.
anything, teacher, any situation.
Thank you.
So we are only bound by what California says that we can do as far
Correct.
as
We
that.
can't step in and say, if you work for this district, you have to do a drug test every 2 years because we say you have to. California does
Well,
not
like
allow that.
random drug test
No,
would make more
we
sense.
can't do any random.
I'm sure that would end up just like the COVID testing did.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, we
mean,
can't do any
We couldn't do
random-
any of it.
Yeah, we can't do any random testing unless there's cause. And you have to have, personally, I've been involved with situations where I was called out to a school site with an employee and we had to do cause, and it was a struggle. The employee refuses, call law enforcement, they come in, they handle it.
Man, this seems way more important, though. This seems like huge, right? I
agree.
mean, we're talking
I
about
agree.
kids here.
Yeah, but
I mean,
yeah, I no, we all agree. That's why they always say if you have any doubts, you call law enforcement in right away. Administration has right to remove any employee from their work environment, send them home, keep them contained up in the office, whatever you want to do if you see that there's something off. But the state is very clear about you cannot randomly test employees unless you have cause.
is that governor decision? Is
No,
that a
that's the
governor?
state law.
So where does that start?
Legislation.
Legislation.
The legislature's established that you cannot.
So they have to write a
random-
bill or something.
Yeah,
They have to
you
go through the
cannot
process.
The only bill in existence right now is for bus driving.